Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canadian Immigrant Virtual Fair, presented by BMO in association with Public Mobile. So we're thrilled to have you all here today. Hope you've had a chance to visit some of our exhibitors at the fair. And if not, you will have the opportunity to do so till 4 p.m. today. So I'm your host for this session, Ramya Ramanathan, editor of Canadian Immigrant, and I am joined by my colleagues, Laura Jackman, Sanjay Agnihotri, and Ricky Bajaj. So a warm welcome from all of us. Our opening panel discussion for this virtual fair is on the very important topic of resilience. Resilience in action, finding purpose, and maximizing opportunities. We talked to Professor Michael Unger from Dalhousie University's Resilience Research Center earlier this year for a feature on resilience in our magazine, our print magazine. And he said that while a disaster like COVID can shake us to the core, it can also boost our resilience. In his words, a disruptive event can help us look at our fast-paced lives and reconsider our priorities. So let's look at this as an opportunity to learn from our esteemed panel who've made time to be with us here today as they share their challenges and triumphs, their unique journeys, what they've learned on the way, and what they've unlearned, and how they've maximized the opportunities that came their way. We're thrilled to welcome our very diverse group of leaders from very different fields and backgrounds. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome entrepreneur, philanthropist, and community leader, Mohamad Fakih, business leader, Lean Lee, author, Lokadasan Dharmadurai, who first came to Canada as a refugee, and Isaac Garcia Sitten, a leader in the education field. So welcome. It gives us great pleasure to have you here. So a little about the logistics of this event. During the discussion, we will ask questions specific to the speakers' backgrounds, where they will have the opportunity to share their own unique perspectives. And at the end, we'll open the floor to questions from the audience. So if you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to type them in the chat or the Q&A. We will get to your questions towards the end, and you can also email us at info@canadianimmigrant.ca. And the session is being recorded and will be made available online on our website. So just before we get started, we will take a short 10 seconds of your time to share a video message from our associate sponsor, Public Mobile. So here goes.
Matt and Megan felt stuck with their phone company, but since switching to Public Mobile, where there's no commitments, no contracts, and no hidden fees, they're free to feel the love again.
Great. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who's been a very good friend of Canadian Immigrant over the years and was on the cover of our print issue 5 years ago in 2016. So we all know Mohamad, but here is a short introduction. Mohamad is the CEO and president of Paramount Fine Foods. He came to Canada with less than a couple of $1,000s in his pocket. And then in 2006, purchased a nearly bankrupt restaurant and transformed it into what we now know as the Middle Eastern halal restaurant chain in North America, Paramount Fine Foods. A community leader, Mohamad regularly participates in fundraisers and community events, supporting multiple causes and organizations across Canada. Mohamad has received numerous awards and recognitions, including an honorary Doctor of Law degree from Ryerson University in Toronto, their prestigious 2018 Employer Award for Newcomer Employment from IRCC, and has been nominated and was voted as one of our top 25 Canadian Immigrant Award winners. So Mohamad, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for making time in your really busy schedule. Welcome.
No, thank you very much. It is very important to be here. This is the Canadian Immigrant. This is a platform that we all need to support to maintain that voice and telling success stories, because I truly believe we become what we celebrate. And when we celebrate immigrant, when we celebrate kindness, we become kinder and we become more respectful to immigrant and their experience and their what they do when they come here and their participation in our beautiful country.
Thank you for that. So I will start with my first question. You came to Canada from Lebanon via Italy just over 2 decades ago. And like I said, with just a couple of $1,000s in your pocket and no connections. And then 15 years ago, you purchased a nearly bankrupt restaurant and transformed it into Paramount Fine Foods. What were a couple of key challenges you faced on your journey, and how did you deal with them?
Well, thank you very much for your question. And honestly, I'm very happy to be here. Talking about resilience and challenges and the immigrant story and experience are topics that are very, very close to my heart. You know, it's such a great word, resilience. It's so forward looking and it's so filled with hope and positivity and strength. And for me, I read a lot about resilience. And one of the best definition, it says exactly how the way I say it, the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult life events. And given last year, it's a word for our times, basically, because it's been a year of heartache for many and sacrifice for most. It's also been a year of discovery. We've learned a lot about ourselves, about our organization. There is no doubt that COVID has been a challenge for us in so many ways. On the business side, you all heard the restaurant industry has been decimated. Let me go back a bit. You're right. 15 years ago, my wife sent me to buy a kilo baklava. I'm a gemologist. I finished my study in Italy. And I went in to buy baklava and I bought the company. I gave him an offer. The business was in trouble, near bankruptcy. At that point, I had saved up just enough money to buy it. I took a chance. We made him an offer and he said yes. And that was the start of something. And today, my company, Paramount Fine Food, has more than 80 locations worldwide and more than 2,000 employees, more than 2,000 families. They are employed in our company. But if we're going to talk about the challenges, you know, there's 3 challenges that I remember so far that I remember forever. And about COVID, if you're in the restaurant industry, the last year, the pandemic has been uniquely challenging. We have had to ask ourselves, what is our philosophy towards our business? What is the core idea that guides our decision? And for me, the answer was forward, always forward. And not only in COVID, any challenge that you're faced with in life and future challenges, has to be the answer forward, always forward. In any challenging moment, the easy thing to do is to look backward, to run away. You might say, I miss how things used to be. I want to go back to the way things used to be. This is a wasted energy. It's wasted of time and it slows down your need from running forward. So look always forward. Let me tell you how my team and I responded to this pandemic. When everyone closed down, we immediately transferred our indoor space to takeout like everyone else did. But we launched a new concept. Everyone thought I was crazy. I was spending money, starting a new concept. Started the Crispo, the fried chicken. I started Boxed, the touchless restaurant. And I started Massimo, the pizza concept, in partnership with Massimo Capra, because I knew that we had to do something differently. And we can't, you know, I call my team my family. It's not like you don't feed your children when you don't have money. You don't fire your staff when things get tighter. You find a way to move forward and to find the jobs for them. And if you have a loaf of bread, that's what I learned during the war in Lebanon. I would share it with my neighbor. I wouldn't just eat it alone and hide it. And then we partnered with Rabah Fine Food to open outlets inside supermarket because we just realized that supermarkets are busier and it might go for long. I'll be very honest. Some people thought, really, this is crazy. It's nuts. Even some of my team members said, well, you're spending money. You know, let's just cut like everybody else is doing. I said, no, we need to operate under the rule that we will not remove a glass of milk from any of our employees' table and their family. My thinking was different. The way I saw it when it comes to business, we need to be a bit like a shark and like a goldfish, because to survive, the shark must always move forward. And a goldfish has a very short memory, just a few seconds. So it's never going to fall into the trap of getting nostalgic of how things used to be, a shark and a goldfish. So it's all about now and what's next. So don't waste your time and looking back. I'll be honest, I'm a very optimistic guy, and sometimes people are annoyed by my smile because even in the worst time, I'm always smiling. But that's what I learned. I learned it during the war. I used to see my dad coming out of a bunker with us, his kids in his arm, and he used to say, I can't wait to build my country. I can't build to open businesses again. So to everyone out there, be positive. Things will get better. The second part, and the other two big challenges that I've always want to work against over the course of my journey is something very different from the health and economic crisis of this pandemic. It's something that many of you will have experienced if you are from away, or you look different, or you sound foreign, or you have an accent like mine and practice a different religion. Like, my name is Mohamad, I'm Lebanese, I have a heavy accent. And those two challenges are, one, the Canadian experience, and the second one is the one word that we all know about, is hate. When I arrived here, I was a gemologist. So I had years of selling and certifying diamonds. I had a great salary when I worked in Italy, salary that provided me with a great life with so much respect and dignity. When I came to Canada, I had to work at a coffee shop during night shift, to be able to work at a jewelry store in the daytime for free, because I didn't have that Canadian experience. Why does everyone think that international experiences aren't as worthy as Canadian experiences? Hiring people from different backgrounds bring different experiences and new ideas. It brings an opportunity to open up new networks. I have Syrian refugees that I hired that sold Dubai master franchise for me. If I wanted to suggest anything today to leaders out there, I would suggest that they hire for attitude more than for skill. You cannot train a skilled person to have a better attitude, but you can have someone with a great attitude to train and embrace people from different experiences, and don't make them pay that price by hiring them for free like I had to work. Why can't your company invest in someone that has so much grit and so much hunger to rebuild his life, and they'll bring a great attitude to your own team? If you invest in someone with the right attitude, with that much grit, it'll come back to you. Because business people want to talk ROI, I guarantee you, I'm someone that tried it. Investing with people from different backgrounds brings better ROI to the company and to the team building. Let's take away that statement that you don't have Canadian experience, as that we should take it away from the list when you want to decline a job. It's offensive to all of us. It's actually insulting. Just find another reason when you don't want to hire them. Just don't say they don't have a Canadian experience. It doesn't exist. World experiences are used everywhere across the world. We are using a vaccine that was produced somewhere else and is saving our life. Let me talk about the second point, hate. Hate has been always there, something to overcome while also trying to be an entrepreneur and making a go of it in the world. I've been attacked on the internet several times. We see a lot of different type of hate these days. I've been harassed in public places. It's never because of something that I've done. It's always because of who I am. I'm an Arab, a Muslim, an immigrant with a heavy accent. I want to keep my accent because that starts a conversation. I will tell you a story. I was in a mall one day and this man recognizes me. He tried to engage. I'm polite. I'm always polite. I'm a nice guy in general. But he becomes very aggressive, his finger jabbing in the air. It's hard to follow what he's trying to say. He accuses me all sorts of crazy things. I say, buddy, I only sell shawarma, calm down. And my kids with me is very difficult. I walk away, he follows, yelling at me. He won't stop. My kids were upset. They were afraid. They don't know this man. They don't know why he's shouting. It can be scary, right? Hate can be scary. But here's what's important. Even though I know intolerance, but I know how it feels to be supported by a community of people. I know the power that we have when we speak out and stand up together. Listen, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about you picking fights. I'm not talking about you talking about violence. I'm not talking about escalating a difficult situation. Your first priority is always to be safe and to put yourself first. What I'm saying is we can accomplish more when we work together, when we stand up against hate, when we support one another. We can accomplish more when we call on good people of other faiths and other backgrounds to join with us in saying no to hate and no to intolerance. I want to make sure when you're attacked, when you experience hate or racism, don't let that make you doubt your belonging to this beautiful country. I know sometimes when we're overwhelmed, you say, I want to go back, but don't. Or when somebody tell you go back home, you actually think that's not your home for a second. You feel that weakness. People's opinion, especially when it's based on ignorance, shouldn't be the reason why you change your path. It should be the reason to push you to succeed. And the more the immigrants succeed, the more we can be celebrated. The more we set example of success and of hard work, and the more example of standing up against hate that we set all of us, the more we will be celebrated and the more we will be welcome. We don't have to have those conversations with our children that you're going to be treated differently because you look brown, or you look black, or because your name is Mohamad, or because you look Asian. It's a hard fight, I understand. The more we stand up against hate, the more people will support us. And of course, there is a strength of numbers. But I believe you can be realistic and still be optimistic. I believe you can recognize some people are bad and still know that most people are good. But our number will only work if we are vocal. Our silence will help the haters. And I believe that success is better when success is shared. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to come back to a question at the end about your advice, but you've provided so much of this, really inspiring. Thank you so much. So we'll go to our next speaker, Lean Lee. Lean is the CEO of Wealthsimple Foundation, an organization that aims to make education accessible to every child in Canada. Previously, Lean has held the position of Chief Financial Officer at Wealthsimple, a leading financial services innovator operating in Canada, the US, and the UK. And Lean was on the cover of our January issue of the magazine, so you can learn more about Lean if you pick up the issue or go to our website. So Lean, we had the pleasure of sharing your journey from a small town in China to the East Coast as a student, and then to Toronto to become the CFO of Wealthsimple, and now the CEO of Wealthsimple Foundation. What were a couple of key challenges you faced on your journey, and how did you deal with them?
Hi, Raman, thank you. First, I want to thank you for Canada Immigrant to invite me to the platform and share my journey, my story. I'm very excited and being honored to be on the panel with great people, share similar backgrounds. So again, it's also after Mohamad's talk, and it's very hard to follow. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta rethink a lot of the things that you said really resonate with me. I'm like, I need to think about a different way to actually share the story. I came to Canada on a student visa in my mid-20s. So I was fairly mature by then. I think a lot of people here on the panel have a similar background in terms of like the age when you came here. I had a bachelor education when I was in China. I worked for almost 5 years full-time in the bank in China. So when Mohamad said that, when you came to this country, you're looking for a job without a Canadian experience, I experienced that firsthand in my early career. I think looking back, the challenges I faced in the last 20 years, my journey in Canada, are mostly related to my immigrant background, which I'm very proud of. So we talk about two challenges, just want to list, there's many challenges, want to list the two that I think probably might resonate with a lot of newcomers thinking about my journey in the past. The very first challenge is for me, is the constant self-doubt on my ability to communicate in English. You see me as East Asian woman. When I start talking, you know that I wasn't born here, right? So I think that was really the self-doubt constantly. The second challenge to me is the lack of network that we have built since our childhood in our home countries when we moved to this country. So want to break down to both challenges. The very first one is when I got the question from Laura, I was actually preparing my responses. I've spent some time thinking about why. After 20 years in Canada, I can speak English without translating from English to Chinese and back forth, but I still have that thought. So I think it's probably due to the huge drop in my ability to communicate verbally after I came to Canada. So, a lot of immigrants who come at, after kind of teenager age, you're Like we all had a life back to our home country, regardless of what the life was. I was very well educated in China. I was fairly articulate in my own language. And then I think the thing is I knew how well I could communicate in my native language, but that ability dropped from like 9 to probably 1 or 2 in a scale of 10 when I came. And that negative thought stayed with me, regardless of my language level, just to be honest. When I failed, like, I didn't get a job, I didn't get a promotion, or failed to deliver a project, it was easier to process that, like, hey, I failed because of this. But like every time, almost every time, even like when I did a really good job, like at least other people telling me that, I still doubt myself that if I could speak English, communicate English in a way that others could, I might have delivered a better job. Like, and that doesn't go away. Like, it was kind of sadly or funny that even now I'm speaking, the back of my head is telling me that I could have said these things, I just said better, right? So that's constant struggle in my head. But I think the lucky part, it was like I recognized this for years, like, when your own voice telling you something that you recognize the fact that, like, I think I developed a system along the way to just like help me to let this negative thought that have much less impact on me over years. So, the first few years, it's definitely, I think my confidence was impacted largely, but now it's much less. So a couple of things I want to share. Like, very first one is to prepare and practice. So I just need to spend more time than others to prepare for anything that, especially with public speaking involved, communications involved, writing documents, things like that. I tend to spend more time to practice and to prepare. So I know that I will feel much more confident when the time comes. So I think that's really helpful. And also more put the control on myself that I can do certain things. The second one is kind of just like accept the fact that I'm not going to get rid of this negative thought, and also to embrace and use this opportunity to say, I can learn, I can still learn, I can still grow. And not being perfect is the best motivation for me to grow and learn to be better. So I think that was the two things I developed, and it takes a lot of time, I think, and then self-training to do that. But if you share a similar self-doubt as I do, then try those couple of things. I think probably eventually will be helpful. The second, like, kind of the challenge I had was like the lack of network that we had back to our home countries. Like, to Mohamad's point, that I think to be successful, whatever definition of a success, we all need a group of people along the way to help us to get there, regardless of how strong you are, how smart you are, how lucky you are. Having a strong network is super important, but it takes lots of time and effort to create that network in the different countries. Like, with the pandemic, it's very hard to build that personal connection. So I think a couple of advice like I can give is like, because it takes time and luck, and also requires some sort of like common interest to build that personal relationship. So I would recommend people to start thinking about where you spend the most time in your regular life, and then like kind of connected with your personal interest, personal life, to create a network where you actually spend the most time with. The community centers, our own communities, and I'm from China, so the Chinese communities, I went to school here, so my student alumni group, I have a different career along the way. So the colleagues I met in the past, that's where I kind of really focus on my effort. And really thinking through that, in order to meet your success criteria, what the areas of communities you have not connected with, and then try to prioritize those things as well to help you to leverage what you have, and also prioritize what you need to have that you don't have. I think that's kind of important to be very thoughtful on this part of it. The second piece is it's a give and take relationship. I remember when I came here, I didn't really think I had anything to offer until I started to actually communicate with other people from different backgrounds. I found out that me as an individual has a lot to offer with my background and my expertise. So like, don't sell yourself short on your background just because you're new to this country or you haven't had this success that everybody else had, right? To really leverage your own background and your own experience, everyone has something to teach others, and then really highlight those areas that you can share, you can teach with others, and then that will I think that made me feel good about myself, and also make me feel confident to actually go out to talk to people, right? And, you know, we didn't grow up here, so there was one example is like when people crack jokes, I just like, what is funny, right? Like, but then like you can talk about jokes that, you know, make them laugh, that maybe doesn't really need a lot of things. You can share your own experience, your religion, your culture, like the food, everything about ourselves is something that beautifully you can share. So don't sell yourself short when you actually go out, talk to people that you don't think that, you know, connects them. So that's kind of the couple of things I want to share. Rami, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. That was really inspiring. Thank you so much. I noticed that both you and Mohamad shared your experiences, your challenges, how you dealt with them, and also connected it with advice. So I'm going to ask Das if he can do the same thing. I had a separate question, but you've given fabulous advice. So Das, or Logadasan Dharmadurai, is a writer and information systems professional. He is the author of The Sadness of Geography, a memoir which depicts his life as a teenage refugee during the long and brutal Sri Lankan Civil War, which is now available in English and Tamil. So welcome, Das. I had the pleasure of interviewing you for our 2019 print issue, and you shared your journey from a teenage refugee to finding home here, becoming an IT professional, a family man, an author, and telling a very powerful story in your book. What were a couple of key challenges you faced? How did you deal with them? And what advice do you have to offer our viewers today?
Thank you, Ramya, for the warm introduction. And I'm delighted to be here today and the opportunity to share my story. Please excuse my voice because I had a surgery in my vocal cord. Um, One of the challenges that I faced was my terrifying journey to Canada. This is a very long story, but I'll keep it short. As Ramya mentioned, I'm Tamil from northern Sri Lanka, and my country was torn apart for 3 decades due to the civil war. We lost everything during that time. We didn't have any money or food to eat. The whole country was in a mess. In 1985, when I was 18, after deeply distressing encounter with the soldiers, I decided to leave my homeland and to build a new life for me and my family. Um, I was lucky enough to borrow money from my friend and arrange for my travel to Germany. However, my travel money and passport was stolen, and I was left stranded in a country, a devastating area. However, with the help of strangers, and especially one of them I met briefly in a train, I was able to recover everything and leave my country. As my journey unfolded through Europe, I found myself in refugee camps, smuggled across international borders, live with drug dealers, travel under the assumed name, imprisoned, and more. During that time, I was really feeling depressed and lonely. However, I reminded myself my end goal to rebuild the life I had before and to see my family again. So during the time, I only think about my mother, and I gained my strength. Eventually, I succeeded all my challenges with the help of others and came to this country. So if you are in need, always open up and ask for help. I know some of us are culturally shy to ask for help, but we shouldn't. The asking for help is really a sign of strength from others. The another challenge that would be is I suffered privately with all the terrible things that I encountered when I was a boy during the war. I was chased by a military helicopter, assaulted by a group of soldiers, and left stranded in the conflicted areas. The nightmare continued over the years as I relived some in my dreams. About 4 years ago, I decided to write my story. The more I wrote, the more I felt free and became open minded. After 30 years, I was finally able to get it out of my system so that I'm no longer a prisoner to those unwanted memories. It was definitely a therapeutic, and because of it, I can openly talk about it. Even though I shared some personal experiences in my book, I found greatest sense of inner peace. In my situation, writing has really helped me to overcome my nightmares and set myself free. Thank you.
Thank you for that very honest sharing of your journey. I'm going to ask you to, in a couple of minutes, thus also talk about advice that you might have um, for our viewers based on your experience.
Yes, this pandemic has really hurt everyone around the world. We all affected by either directly or indirectly. And worrying, fear, anxiety are not the best way to manage our crisis. We limit ourselves with the unnecessary stress in this crisis. We only have power to control our internal reactions, and that is our thoughts and minds. So be positive and open minded. And don't forget to take care of yourself. Being mentally strong and mentally and physically strong, so you can help looking for the opportunities and tackle them when they arise. When I came here, I received a work permit in a couple of weeks and began to work as a dishwasher. I never underestimated the power of starting from somewhere from the bottom to go up. While I was working in the restaurant, I went to school, complete my education, and eventually I was able to build the career that I always wanted. So there are not many programs and organizations available to help the newcomers here in Canada. And the other thing is, you can network with the others. When you network with the others, will open up a lot more doors for you in your both personal and professional lives. So I think that's another better way to mingle with the other communities and build up your network and able to succeed in your life.
Thank you so much. That was very inspiring. Our final panelist to join us today is Isaac Garcia Sidon. And Isaac is a respected leader in the higher education sector with over 18 years of experience in international relations and business development. He is the Executive Director, International Student Enrollment, Education and Inclusion at Ryerson University in Toronto, and received the Top 25 Canadian Immigrant Award in 2020, sorry. Welcome, Isaac. So my first question is, we had the pleasure of spotlighting you as one of the top 25 immigrants. And you've had quite a journey, a different journey, from serving as a diplomat for Panama in the US and then in Canada to becoming a leader in post-secondary education. You've changed your career, had a number of challenges that have come your way. Would you like to share them, and how did you deal with them? And at the end of it all, would you share your advice to our audience, with our audience?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Good morning. I agree with Lee. This is a very inspiring panel, but a very tough one to follow because a lot has been said. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. which is a bit different than everyone else's. I actually came to Canada, as you mentioned, as a diplomat. The nature of diplomatic work is that you work in a post and then you have to move to the next place. When I got here, very early on, I felt for the first time in my adult life at home. Although it was very different from Latin America and Europe, and I didn't have any family. At the very core, I really appreciated Canadian values of diversity. But beyond cultural and ethnic diversity, really diversity of ideas, of perspectives, where equity and inclusion were part of the identity, where people were really free to be authentic and who they were. So at the end of my post, I resigned to my career in diplomacy, a somewhat unpopular decision in my household. And then I applied to permanent residency. And as a landed immigrant, I faced, and we'll see a thread today between all of the panelists, I faced, like with many millions of us, issues transitioning to the workforce. For me, that was quite challenging. I went through a phase, like a colleague called it recently, apply, no reply. So it was a very challenging sort of journey, part of my journey. But I learned a lot about myself during that time. You get up every morning, you're very excited, you find a posting, you think you're right fit for the role, you apply, you don't hear anything back. Then that goes on for the first few months, you're still excited, you can still, get up every morning and do it all over again. But by the 6th month, then you start, as Lingley said, you start doubting yourself, you start questioning your worth, you start questioning your decision. I felt, and I know I had transferable skills, I had, breadth and depth of experience, and I still struggled, like many millions of people, to find a job because of the lack of Canadian experience that Mohamad was talking about. So of course, that was a pivotal moment for me, both personally and professionally. It was very humbling, but at the same time, it also allowed me to learn and change the way that I approach the search and that I approach life in general. I decided not to be fixated on the outcome of finding the job, but really looking around it from a different perspective, just approaching it differently. How do I position myself as the best candidate for the job that I was applying to? Really understand your worth. And as part of that, I actually decided to, which culturally perhaps it wasn't something that I was used to, but I decided to reach out to hiring managers that were part of the searches and where I didn't get the position. And I asked them for constructive feedback. I was like, very humbly, I'm an immigrant in this journey, and I would like to understand what can I do different or what could I've done to improve for this particular role. And that was both very insightful, but at the same time, it really helped me sort of position myself and understand really what I can bring to the table, sort of take out the pressure of finding the job and the outcome of the search and really focus on you and reassuring yourself of your worth and what can you bring. Ultimately, you also need to be authentic, right? So like I said earlier, Canada is a very diverse, beautifully diverse country where there is a place really for all of us. By being authentic, we all have a place in society. The second point that sort of was mentioned also by Lily and Mohamad and all of us is really about staying connected and serving your communities. And what I mean by communities is any group that you identify with. It can be your ethnic communities, your religious communities, your languages that you speak, your professional interests, sports, anywhere you live, as many communities as you identify to. That's something very unique and one of the things that really make part of the Canadian identity and that I find so beautiful. And it also will help you with your sense of belonging. It will help you find your place in society and it will help you settle better. It will help you transition, but ultimately it keeps you grounded. It'll allow you to meet others and it will allow you to really help yourself, but then the collective. It will help you, it will help all of us. So those would be my two sort of key points of advice. The first one, trust the process. Don't let the uncertainty, the ambiguity, the complexity of the moment take over. really just take at it from a different perspective. You need to be humble and we need to be flexible around that. And then the second part is really be intentional about nurturing, but investing in the communities, in any community that you're part of. That's a beautiful thing about Canada, where we have many. So take the time, invest, because by investing in communities, you're investing in yourself, and we're investing in all of us.
Thank you, Isaac. Excellent advice. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask, there were excellent presentations, so I didn't cut any of you short. I wish we had another 20 minutes, but we don't. So I'm going to ask Mohamad in just a minute. Can you, at this point of COVID, a year down the line, do you have advice for our listeners on how to deal with what's happening right now? And how do we build resilience at this time, specifically resilience in face of these challenges, specific challenge of COVID?
Well, thank you very much. And it's an honor to be with all these great people and listen to their stories. And I deal with it the way I dealt with the war in Lebanon. We didn't hide in bunkers. We came out and we baked bread for everybody to eat. And we found always a place of positivity. We all go to dark places when things happen like this, but it's how long you stay there. And do you sit and wait for the situation to resolve itself, or you become part of the solution? And for me, I did not sit one day at home, as much as it's illegal that sounds to everybody else. But I'm definitely someone that has his own foundation, and our job as a foundation became bigger when the pandemic started. I actually moved out of my house to a hotel, and I saw my kids for 2 months behind the glass, because I thought our children are not the children that I have, the 3 boys at home. Our children is the children of all Canadian children, that they deserve, that we make sure that that poverty is being fought, and we're bringing some hope to some families that lost their job or lost lives. And that's why we start several campaigns. I brought positivity to my team, but most importantly, a lot of positivity to the people watching us doing this and coming and participating and volunteering. So my suggestion to everyone, the world will be back, and we will all come back, and the light will come. A great day will come. We'll greet it together. And the legacy is the story will be told about all of us, how we reacted when there was a problem. And it's an opportunity for us, Immigrant. It's a great opportunity, and I'm smiling while I say that. It's a great opportunity to show the power of Immigrant. Now, the power of those different experiences. War didn't scare us, COVID will not. We'll be careful, but we will not hide. We will defend Canadian, we'll defend this society, we'll defend this community, and we will bring our experiences to be used on the table, those resilient experiences, the experience of Sri Lanka's war and Lebanese war and every other country's war, and doesn't have to be a war. The Immigrant experience of a struggle will serve amazingly to this beautiful country, the beautiful people of Canada. And this is the time where we can shine. There is an old say, I'll end by saying, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. So a crisis is an amazing thing. And beside the death and the life we lost, everything else, it could be turned to a very good, amazing thing for all of us to get to know each other better. And for the rest of Canadians to get to know Immigrant better. We are a great partner. We high five when there is a problem, and we show our strength and our real values when people are hurt and they are in the darkest spot. And that's why I'm asking everyone to join me and volunteer, help someone in need. And if you can, share a campaign that helps someone. Let's bring more smiles to people's faces. People need it.
Thank you so much for all your positive energy, and very inspiring. Thank you, Mohamad. Lean, same question over to you. In this time of COVID, a year down the line, do you have specific advice on how we can develop resilience?
I think my advice would be to push everyone to understand that last year and this year, due to COVID, are unprecedented times for human race. So the stress you face, I face, or we all face is amplified by pandemic, right? And then to Mohamad's point, things will get better. It takes time to get better. One of my friends just told me this week that we're all in this storm together, regardless the boat you and your family on. So everybody's going through different type of journeys. My recommendation is really being okay with yourself when sometimes some days you know you're not doing as well as you wanted. Being okay with that. Build a trusted circle of friends and families that you can tap into when you need help, you can talk to. Figure out little things that help energize you. So remember that you cannot help others if you're not helping yourself. So figure out those little things you can do differently every single day to energize you. And the last piece is really getting help for yourself and your families, of the people you love, you need it. Talking to social workers, doing online readings, doing a little practice. Be fully transparent. I'm getting help myself. Right? This morning I got up, didn't feel great about myself. I'm getting help to really get myself to increase my resilience level so I can deal with the situation better. One last thing I want to leave everyone is what my coach told me this week. Be kind to others, but more importantly, be kind to yourself.
Thank you so much for that. Very inspiring. Das, same question to you. Advice at this time on being resilient.
Das, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Resilience isn't a single skills. It's a variety of skills and coping mechanism. I know we all going through this difficult time, but difficult to recover from our difficulties and failures. We should always stay positive and open to adapt to new things. Um, in my past, I climbed out of one hole, but then fell into another deeper hole. But I never gave up. I was very optimistic that I will rebuild the life that I had before and see my family again. So that kind of thoughts, positive thoughts, kept me going, and I was able to be successful. So, so you all should do the same. Be positive in this difficult time, and have a purpose and goal in your mind. Um, Also, especially me, I stretched to learn a new language when I came to this country, as well as the other cultures. So being adaptable will really open up more doors to meet with the other people, and there are people there to always willing to help. So that's how I was able to overcome the challenges that I faced. Thank you.
Das, thank you so much. Isaac, same question to you, please. Building resilience during this time of COVID.
Sure. I also will be positive in my message. So, as you know, the definition of resilience is our capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. So, like Mohamad and Ling Li and everyone else has said, I do think it's important to focus on the things that you can control, but remind ourselves that there is a long road ahead, and don't let the pebbles in the way sort of take you away from the end result and the goal. Um, know that it is important to be there for one another, and that's really going to allow us collectively to be better and see the other side of that. More practically, and going back to what Lindley said, invest and take care of yourself. A good analogy that a friend just gave us not long ago was, when you look at your handheld device, at your smart devices, all your favorite apps in the device, how often do you think these apps are being updated? So they're constantly being updated. So now ask yourself, how many times are you updating yourself? And that can be physically, emotionally, professionally, your community. We should really work hard around, physically staying active. That really helps in your mental health, ensuring whatever works for you. It might be journaling, might be gratitude, might be spiritually. And in your community, really just get involved, be active in your community, be a good neighbor, be a good citizen. I think that if we invest in ourselves, then we're invested in the collective. And if we really going to what Mohamad said and what everybody else has said today, it really allows us to look at a brighter tomorrow. finally, really try to find, I know things are overwhelming, but try to find the small wins every day. Like you said, get up, try to find purpose, try to find, it can be from exercising to reading to donating to volunteering to helping a colleague with their work. Just try to find the small wins every day because, like we've all said today, we are lucky to live in this beautiful country. We are lucky to be healthy, and the ones that are not healthy, they have a community behind them that they can support them. So I am also optimistic. I think that there is a brighter tomorrow in front of us. And if there's something that we've heard today from very inspiring stories, is that um, that together nothing is impossible. So I do believe that that we'll see the other side of this. Um, just to comment on Mohammed's point around that a crisis should not be wasted, that quote is actually from Winston Churchill at the end of World War II, when he was encouraging leaders, other leaders in Europe, as Europe was decimated from World War II and millions of people were dying. And he encouraged his other leaders to get together so they can start the United Nations and rebuild the world. So I think there's certainly a brighter tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. So a lot of questions have come in, specific questions for specific people, but we don't have much time. I'll just pick one question. You've spoken to this already, but in 30 seconds, can you somebody's asking, having recently arrived in Canada just before the pandemic, I didn't get a chance to meet people. Now a year later, I feel isolated. Advice? So you've talked about volunteering. You've already talked about a number of things, community building, staying positive. But if there's one thing you want to say in 30 seconds, what advice would you like to share, Mohamad?
I think volunteering, philanthropy and volunteering enhance the sense of belonging and building a friendship for a good purpose and good cause, and keep people connected. And I've seen a lot of people. There is an actress from Norway that joined me in my Sunday cooking 500 meal. We've been doing it for the last year every Sunday in Regent Park. And she came in not knowing anyone. And yesterday, one of them texted me and said that they have this weekly Zoom call and they're always talking to each other, all the people volunteering with me. And they're doing it without me, apparently, which is great. I like that. And so volunteer, show up for the community, show up to events like this. Look, you're not worse than anybody else. We're all less connected in person, but volunteering gives you the permission to come out of the house because you're doing something for the community. But doesn't mean if we're less connected in person, we should not be connected from inside. We should not reaching out digitally and virtually. So just volunteer and show up to the community.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Lean?
To that point, next week is the National Volunteer Week in Canada. So there's a great opportunity to tap into your different communities, do the things you really care about. Just take advantage to do that part of it.
Das?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm trying to echo the same Mohamad and Lee's mentioned. Yeah, I have been participating some of the senior volunteer group, and right now during this time, a lot of people are affected because of the mental health. So I have been volunteering and participating on those sessions. So I encourage everyone to do the same.
Thank you for that, Isaac. Same question.
Same. I echo what the other panelists said, but I also, going back to what Das just mentioned, mental health is the number one sort of issue that we are all facing collectively at all ages. So I do think it's important to also reach out to people, be there, be present. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can send a message, you can reach out to a neighbor, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. I certainly think that that's what we need to be doing right now more than ever. And volunteer, big fan of that, absolutely.
Thank you so much. It's amazing how all of you've had different experiences, but your advice and learnings and your inspiring thoughts there's a lot of similarity. So thank you, Mohamad, Lean, Das, and Isaac for taking the time to speak with us today and taking this extra time as well Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Bank of Montreal, our associate sponsor, Public Mobile, our gold sponsors, Canadian Association of Professional Immigration Consultants, Prevention Link, silver sponsors, Multicultural Association of Fredericton, and the Government of Nova Scotia, and to all of our exhibitors. So please feel free to rejoin the fair and chat with our exhibitors who are here to help you. The fair is open until 4 p.m. today. So thank you so much for your incredible insights and for making time to be here today with us.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grateful.
Good
Thank
day.